Hey, deserving listeners, Love is Blind. Let's watch.
You don't put bumper stickers on this car. Do not care what kind of car you drive. Like if you were like, yeah, I drive a Kia.
That's what Jordan drives.
Hey, you guys are perfect for each other. I hope you... Never mind.
All right. So, on one hand, I think it's obvious, shouldn't be obvious that no one would care what each other's car was. Isn't that, so I don't understand why that, but of course, I mean, on the show, we've seen it before, and I think some of these individuals, they have to state that up front. Can you imagine that some of the other couples would be saying these kinds of things, the couples that we appreciate? Now, maybe they did have these conversations and they just edited it out, but it just seems so obvious. Isn't that obvious that it doesn't matter what the person drives anyway? So he says that, but he's on the right side of the issue. It's just strange that you'd have to mention it anyway. I guess it kind of makes sense given what she has maybe said, kind of. Anyway. So then she inserts Jordan's name, which I wouldn't recommend. He's the one, Mike is the one who extracted the Jordan name out of her. So I guess that's what you get. But I wouldn't recommend that she bring it up because, she's on a date. It's understood that she's dating both. So she brings it up. It kind of makes sense. And then he says, oh, yeah, you guys are perfect for each other. I don't know. If that's all that we saw, I wouldn't have much to go off of. But given other things that we've seen, I think that's a passive aggression. I think he's being passively hostile by saying, oh, yeah, you guys are perfect for each other. He wasn't saying it with that voice. I don't know what he meant for it by that. But there's a lot of things that one would say. Now, it makes total sense that he would be a little insecure in that moment because she's mentioning this and he's being reminded of the fact that he's in competition. But the way that he responds is hostile in a passive way while laughing a lot, I think is a way to trick himself and maybe other people, certainly not tricking me, into believing that he's all cool and calm and everything's fun and funny when deep down it's tearing him apart, I think.
Can't wait to tie Megan to the bed.
Michael. I have zero doubt in my mind that our sex life would be...
I don't know. I'm wondering if people watching this show would think that he's some sort of 50 Shades of Grey sort of person or some kind of sadist. I don't know. Sadist in a bad way. Because, sadistic play with consenting adults can be fun for people that want to do that sort of thing. But I don't know. What are people saying about Mike? I don't know.
You're not wrong.
Oh, Mike, over here daydreaming.
I'm going to change the subject. So I wrote, be yourself, chill, and be confident. You're better than these other guys.
Just superiority. That's literally the definition. You're better. Now, people will say these kinds of things, not meaning that they're narcissistically grandiose about their superiority, but given everything that we've seen, sometimes even if you're not narcissistic, you'll say something like, hey, well, I don't know, I just can't, there's so many other ways to frame it. Literally everything this guy does. Anyway, it's obvious, right?
But everyone's just being so guarded.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Are we allowed to ask about tattoos?
I'm indifferent about tattoos.
Do you have them?
I have a couple small ones.
You want to know my story on tattoos?
Let's hear it.
What? A couple small ones? So I'm hoping he's just making a joke and then in a couple of minutes he'll say, no, I've actually got a lot of tattoos. Or he thinks that it's not something you're supposed to talk about. It's interesting, she asked, are we allowed to ask about tattoo? I think meaning that the guidelines around what you're supposed to do in the pods from the producers. If he just doesn't want to answer, then just don't answer.
But I'm quite literally the happiest I've been in a long time, and it's mainly because of you. If it wasn't you, I would go home.
Really?
100%. My head would explode if I felt that way about two people.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I think Megan, at least the way it looked, and I think she might have even said this, that she had Mike as number one. And well, originally she had Blake as her number one, then he just ghosted, I think because Anna left. And then she put Mike number one, and then I think Jordan number two. And now it looks like maybe Jordan is rising in his stock. I don't know what sort of phrase to use. Because for the first time, I think Megan is hearing things having to do with love and connection. Because all three of these guys, Jordan, Mike, and Blake, in terms of the edit, there wasn't really anything that we would normally see, the kind of lovey-dovey talk at this phase of the game, right? Game. And I think Jordan, it looks real. I can't really tell. Of the presentations we've seen on the show, Jordan doesn't present in a way that I'm super confident in. But how would I know either way? I wasn't super confident that Kwame was going to say yes to Chelsea. I thought the two of them were going to say no to each other at the altar, and they said yes. So and as far as I know, they're still married, so what do I know? But Jordan is saying that, I don't know if I show this, but he was basically saying this is the happiest he's ever been, or one of the happiest times of his life, and they're talking about his kid and how they're going to involve her with him, the kid and whatnot, and talking about having kids and reversing his vasectomy and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so I'm wondering if Megan is hearing something that she doesn't normally hear. It almost seems like maybe she hasn't had a lot of this in her life. She talked about her two most recent boyfriends. One was this extremely rich person. She said he was almost a billionaire, which is, that's on a whole other level, right? And how he just worked all the time and he spent a lot of money on her, but that was about it. And it felt empty. And then she went the other direction and dated someone. So that billionaire guy was a lot older, or somewhat older. And then she decided to go the other direction. She dated someone a lot younger, and that guy didn't have his career together or something. And she said she had a really great time. They had good chemistry and everything, but he just wasn't at that phase to think about marriage and kids and stuff. And so she wants somewhere in the middle. And that way of thinking about it, I don't know if I would recommend someone think about it that way. Both parents were distant and conflict avoidant, she said. So who knows, but that could mean a fairly not so warm childhood for her, and so she doesn't really know what she's missing. Something's missing in all likelihood, but she doesn't consciously know it or know what to look for or interpret her own needs in that way. She might have had to turn off those needs when she was young. I don't know. I'm making a lot of guesses here. But the way that Jordan is talking might be one of the first times in her life, maybe, that she's heard someone talk about love and connection and need and interdependency, right? And I wonder if this will push Jordan up on the list.
You're giving me all the signs that point to yes.
Aw, cutie.
But I really felt jumbled up today. The fact that I can see a future with you and how comforting and secure that feels, but the fact that I can also see that with somebody else. I'm being pulled in two separate directions.
Yeah, I've said this before. I say this probably every time with this guy. I just don't really understand what his deal is exactly. I don't know if he's just a matter-of-fact speaker. There are a lot of people like that. There are various different reasons for that. Or if he's just saying words that he thinks he's supposed to say, or he's an alien from outer space and he's watched a lot of Love is Blind and he has studied the words but doesn't understand the basis of them. I don't know. But I think Kate thinks that she is definitely number one, if not the only one.
You told me you loved me 2 days ago.
I know.
That's kind of fucked up, honestly, on your end.
The fact that I'm having hesitation does not mean that I'm not in love with you.
Okay, so on the show, when they use the love word, it is either typically or is a stated purpose of saying this is a build-up to proposal, right? That's usually what we've seen. Meaning that it could just be something that people say spontaneously and then naturally proposal follows. But it also seems like they will use it as a way of, there's different words, just like love. If we work our way backwards, there's yes, yes at the altar, there's proposal, then there's love mentioned, and then there's boyfriend, girlfriend. That's often mentioned as well. Or maybe love and boyfriend, girlfriend are at a similar time. Anyway, So that's for us, we have that cultural understanding, so to speak, that sort of protocol. But I've often wondered if something like this would happen, where someone would say love, but they have a different meaning of love, right? Some people say, well, how can you love Kate if you also are into Annie? That doesn't make any sense. No one can define love at all, let alone for another person. So, he could be telling the truth. He could also be bullshitting or bullshitting himself or something. I don't know. But at the very least, it's hurting Kate's feelings. And he is saying, well, just because I have two. So by implication, it would seem that he loves both people. And that can happen depending on your definition of love, right? It's one of those amorphous words. And you go across culture, you go across individuals, and there's going to be like vast difference of definition. We tend to think we understand. In romantic love or warmth, affection, infatuation, whatever you want to call it, we probably are all generally talking about the same ballpark, but the nuances are really quite different. Plus, there's a thing called polyamory, which this show never really addresses. I don't blame Kate, because I think in terms of the edit, it really did look like he was, one, just leading two women on, and two, lying. But I don't know. I feel like I'm losing touch with my ability to gauge these things, because or the ones that seemingly had more authenticity have already gone to the proposal phase, so we're left with these other dudes. I don't know.
That's kind of fucked up, honestly, on your end.
The fact that I'm having hesitation does not mean that I'm not in love with you. I put all my cards on the table.
And, I don't want to say anything about Kate that's critical, but even the way her reaction is. Again, they can have their reaction however they want, and everyone always assumes everyone's faking, so I'm not a fan of that. But I wonder how, because I'm just thinking of other couples that we've seen on the show, not this season, but other couples, where if that had happened, there would have been a visual indication, at least to us through the camera lens, of distress, despair, anger. Oh my God, what's happening? Something. And she's just like, it's kind of fucked up. Now, she said it, so she's expressing something. And maybe just a lot of these people on this season are just really kind of not expressive. I don't know.
I love to hear that. I think you're amazing, but that's a big word,
I did not expect you to give that to me right away, but you should know that you're the only person I've said that to.
Well, I would hope so.
Okay. I was wondering about that. He seems really, but did he only say that to Kate? He was definitely saying things to Annie that were along these lines, if not more so. But it doesn't change the fact that he's telling Annie. Now, he's admitting, and this happens sometimes, right? Like Megan likes Mike and Jordan. As an audience member, I think we're often, depending on how much we like someone, it will determine how much we think someone's being a player or not, right? So I'm guessing people might like Megan to some extent and would therefore say, well, she just likes two guys. What are you going to do? But when it comes to Nick here, for him, the way I'm guessing people aren't like, I don't know, maybe it's the opposite. But I'll just say for myself, that could be a factor in terms of interpretation. But he is saying, I'm glad that, because before he wasn't saying. Now he's saying to Kate, I have feelings for two people, and I've told you I love you, and I've only told you, but I'm still exploring my options. So, he's not lying. I think he's obscuring how much talk he has said to Annie about moving to the next step.
I feel like you were doubting me on that.
No, I wasn't. If you said I love you to two separate people in these pods, that's not love. You could say I like you, I love spending time with you, but you don't say I love you unless you truly love someone for life.
Yeah, again, people can define it. That's typical, right? Especially on this show. But, there's a lot of different definitions. She can define it how she wants to. We can't define it for other people. I think most people would understand that if they were saying or they were receiving the L word, that it was implicit or it was understood that they weren't loving someone else and that this was a very serious feeling they were having for someone. You know what I mean? He should know that. But, not everyone knows that. And of anyone on the show, I could imagine Nick not really understanding that. Maybe on his planet, they don't have that cultural understanding.
100%. I just didn't want you to think that I was giving you the slip.
I think you just said that so fast. It felt a lot like love.
Giving you the slip. You know what I mean? It's like these phrases. I got you. I'm going to fight for you. What? Give you the slip. Yeah, I guess of the phrases. Anyway. Love bombing.
For life.
100%. I just didn't want you to think that I was giving you the slip.
I think you just said that so fast. It felt a lot like love bombing.
Actually, so when I first saw that in the subtitle there, I was thinking, here we go with this word. But you could actually apply this term here, perhaps. We don't know. So listen to my deep dive on love bombing. But in a nutshell, love bombing can be defined as being very communicative about one's affection for another person, expressing a lot of love. I love you. You're the best. You're so beautiful. You're so smart. I love you. Let's be together. Oh my God, this is amazing. And then down the road, at some point, the person that's loving the other person changes their mind abruptly after the person has been kind of sucked into the relationship and has been led to believe that this love is going to last at least for a while. So there are two causes. The main, most, at least anecdotally, the most often cause of love bombing is that the person, due to their attachment traumas growing up, idealizes and devalues relationships so much so that when they fall, and this can be any sort of cluster B, but really it can be anyone with any kind of attachment injury of any sort, typically is associated with borderline, at least on the spectrum of borderline, but it can really be any sort of issue that results from attachment injury, because you kind of have a childish understanding of relationships and of warmth and of attachment, and children don't have nuance when it comes to these sorts of things. So as an adult, you are desiring a relationship that is that of when you were 2 and your mother was there all the time and she was the best and she loved you and she made you feel good and she knew your every need, that sort of all-encompassing love. And when you didn't get that enough when you were a kid, naturally you still want it as an adult. And then you find someone that might be able to give it to you and you're just like, oh my God, you are the person. Now, it's not interpreted and with awareness that that's happening, but all the feelings in it, and it has all the normal feelings of love. I mean, all the love songs and the rom-coms, they have this, and so it looks like that, but it's not really that. It's an element of that, but it's different in that the person has, they're projecting, anyway, listen to my deep dive. But then when they get hurt, they can flip very quickly to devaluing the other person because once again, they're being abandoned. Once again, they're being betrayed. And all that trauma comes forward and all that anger comes forward. And if you're the recipient of that, it's love bombing. You're being love bombed, then all of a sudden, boom, no, you're a horrible person. Because normally, love bomb. So you can have what looks to be love bombing, but it's actually just legit love. But the difference is that when there is a wrench thrown into the gears, and the person expressing a lot of love gets some sort of pushback or some sort of conflict or some sort of indication of like, ooh, maybe this isn't perfect, this person might react, but they're not going to pull the rug out underneath from, the other person. So they might get upset, but they're not going to just completely turn 180 on the other person. Okay, so that's most common. Now, another form of love bombing, less frequent, which is the one that everyone assumes is happening, is manipulative, psychopathic love bombing, where you're literally waking up in the morning saying, I'm going to trick this other person by claiming that I love them when I don't. And I'm going to suck them in so I can control them and manipulate them. That happens. It's infrequent, but it happens in romantic relationships. It happens in work relationships. It happens in cults, in religions. So that happens. And if we apply it here, given what we've seen from Nick, is it possible that he doesn't really mean it, even though he's saying all the right things to 2 different women? And you wonder, well, how can both be true? And meaning that one of them is either not true or both of them aren't authentic. And yeah, love bombing could be happening. Love bombing someone to keep them in the mix so that you will have the greatest chance of going on to the next phase so you can be on a reality TV show. I don't like thinking those kinds of things. Obviously, that does happen sometimes, but I think people assume that more often than is warranted. But if you're gonna wonder, this would be kind of thing. So for her to say that, this is one of the rare usages of that term that actually might be the case. We can't know.
It's not like it was only in that moment. It's when I went to bed that night. It was so hard for me to put that out there. So many nights spent awake, so many hours spent journaling.
I think maybe we just have kind of like a different definition of love, but that's okay.
Yeah. Now, if Kate legit likes him and still wants to be with him, then a little bit more from her, because he's upset, and that's a sign of it being authentic, or that at least he's authentically in this moment. I don't know, and I can see that, and I allowed for that possibility that he just has a different definition of love, and he comes across as a little different, and so it can feel like fake or non-authentic or something. And if she wants to retain the relationship, and if she's legitimately in it and she's not sufficiently hurt, then I think she should say something. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Yeah, I mean, if you're really loving me, then that's perfect. And I'm sorry. I guess it's just not really the way I would think of it. It's hard for me to imagine feeling love, which I trust that you had, and still being involved with someone else. But, everyone's different, which is kind of what she's saying right now.
I mean, I love that you are ready and willing to share that so easily. I love that.
It wasn't easy for me.
It wasn't easy. Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay, good. Yeah, that's essentially what I was getting at. So, okay, yeah. I'm still wondering about Nick, because I don't know. Now, does this mean that he likes Kate more than Annie? I don't know.
Talking intellectually with you, I love goofing around with you. I love talking about our life together. I love that we have so much in common. I love that we were both each other's number one since day one.
That's interesting. So she is under the impression, or has been told by him, that they've been each other's number one since the beginning. Okay. So I guess if that's true, then the way he talks to Annie is not cool to Annie.
Love that we both see each other as our perfect matches. We both really care for each other.
My love for you will honestly never change. My feelings for you can go throughout time. And we're both buried 10 feet under the ground.
It's such an interesting... Okay, on one hand, you got someone like Patrick who struggles with putting things into words. And then you got this guy who has a lot of words, but they're just so strange. I understand what's being communicated, but it's such an odd way of saying it, right? That I will love you my love for you will never end. Even after we're dead and buried, we're rotting underground, 10 feet underground in a coffin, preferably like a nice enough coffin, but who really cares about it, because I'll be dead. But yeah, at that point, I will still love you. I mean, I'm being a dick. But God bless. Love is weird. And why should you do the normal way? So good job.
Because you touched something within me that made me feel that love. When I love somebody, you're gonna have my love for life. I'm not just gonna take it away and play with that in a very silly way.
So you're not taking it back?
No.
On the other hand, the way he talks, given what we've seen other people on the show, I think there's a chance that he either is still very much on the fence, which is fine, or he doesn't actually want to be with Kate. Because I would have, under normal circumstances with this conflict, I think we would just hear more from him. All right, well, that does it for that episode in which I reacted to Love is Blind. Thanks for joining me, seriously. And take care of yourself, because you deserve it. You really, really do.